Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to get started in just a moment, in about a minute's time, and we'll begin with our introductions. We're also going to be going live on LinkedIn and YouTube, which is in the process of warming up right now. And then we will begin. If you're just joining us, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, about 30 seconds. We're going to begin. Okay, I believe we can slowly start. So welcome everybody to our latest webinar, Reskilling and Upskilling Strategies for the Evolving Job Market. We've got a very exciting and thought-provoking session planned for you guys today. Before we get started, I've got a couple of quick things I just want to remind everybody about. So first of all, this webinar is being recorded. So if you can't make it to the end, or if you'd like to share it with any of your colleagues, we'll be sharing the recording with you guys tomorrow. So keep an eye out in your inbox for that one. Second of all, there is a Q&A session at the end of today's discussion. So if you have any questions for our panelists, you can fire them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen anytime throughout the webinar, and we'll get to them at the end. Also, if we run out of some time and there's more questions to come, feel free to fire them through to us. We'll answer them by email. And finally, this webinar is hopefully going to be something where we can provide more actionable insights, basically, not just sort of basic mumbling of the same information over and over. Basically, we want to use as much practical knowledge, practical experience from Daniel and Jacob, who I'm going to introduce shortly. So we're really trying to get as much of this, as much practical knowledge out of this webinar as possible. So please feel encouraged to ask questions about anything to our panelists, and I'll be happy to answer them as we go throughout the session today. So those couple of things out of the way, I might begin with introducing our panelists. I'll start with you, Daniel. So thanks very much for joining us. And can you just give us a few words about yourself, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. My name is Dan Dowling. I've been working in learning and development now. Well, this is my 15th year, and I've had the pleasure of doing that in a really diverse background. So I've worked in everything from the world's largest financial organizations through to brand new green tech startups. And now I currently find myself in one of the world's leading HR tech businesses of Workable. So a very diverse background, but a passion for L&D.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for that. Jacob, can you give us a few words about yourself?
Yeah, so my background is mostly in the computer science. So I have I started my computer science career around 20 years ago. For the last 15 years, I'm mostly involved in the recruitment and skills management, while the skills management is being my focus for the last 6 years. And basically, right now, it's something that is known as reskilling and upskilling. We know it from the perspective of L&D and personal development or employee development. So that's where we are focusing on, and that's where I'm happy to share my experience during this webinar. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, both of you, for those introductions. We've also got, before we get started into our questions, I forgot to mention at the top, we've got a few polls planned for today. These polls are designed to gather a little bit more information about all of you in the audience today, and also to sort of shape up our conversation as we go along today. So with that, I'm going to launch our first poll, which is going to appear on your screen now. The first poll is related to the skills gap. So the question is pretty simple. How significant is the skills gap issue within your industry? You've got 5 options: very significant, somewhat significant, not very significant, not significant, and I don't know. So please take a moment, if you're just listening in, just jump back over to Zoom to vote. And if you're joining later as well, I see a few more people just joining now, so thank you very much for joining us. And I'll let it run for a little bit longer because I can see votes rolling through. And I will end the poll now. Okay. Sorry, guys, for those of you who are still voting, but I need to keep moving. So I'm sharing the results on your screen. So question again, how significant is the skills gap issue within your industry? Top vote was somewhat significant, but we got votes also for a few other ones here today. So thank you very much for sharing that information here. It's actually going to shape up our first question, which I'll point towards you, Daniel. So question is, what are some of the common misconceptions employers have about the skills gap within their workforce?
It's a really important question, and thank you for asking it. I think that when it comes to skills gaps, we've got a lot of misconceptions in the world of work. I think the first one is that there are some organizations out there that don't believe that there is a skills gap that urgently needs addressing. Perhaps they had a really good set of results last year or the year before. They think that those results are what will carry them forward. Perhaps they're forecasting great growth next year. So why rock the boat? Why change things? And I would say to that, every company needs to be able to future-proof itself against what will happen in the future, the changes, macroeconomic or changes in the workplace. Very few people saw the Great Resignation coming, and a lot of companies had to scramble to deal with that. And so if we can be a bit more future focused when it comes to upskilling and reskilling, we can prevent these, or at least minimize the impact of these surprises when they appear on the horizon. I'd say the next misconception is that the skills gap is primarily technical. These are technical skills that we need to be investing in, that we need to be trying to discover as emerging skills. And so we ignore the need to also balance that with a focus on soft skills or power skills or non-technical business skills, whatever you like to call them. They are equally as important. If we think about those soft skills, so to speak, that are going to be vital for now and the future, things like critical thinking, creativity, adaptability, they're increasingly crucial in today's job market. And at Workable, those are subjects that we focus on really clearly to make sure that even if we are just focusing on those broad, softer skills, we know that we're creating a dynamic, adaptable, and resilient workforce. And so I would say that for the companies that do realize that there's a challenge that needs to be addressed, a common misconception is that the solving that problem, taking you from where you are now to where you need to be, is enormously costly. It's prohibitively expensive and time consuming to go on the journey of upskilling or reskilling your workforce. And so many sort of step aside or don't give it the full attention that it needs. And I would say as people on the call are interested in this, whether you be in learning and development, whether you're in HR or whatever, there's a business intelligence, business teaching piece that you can do. You can explain that actually reskilling and upskilling offset against the potential impact on the business is actually a very worthwhile and very cheap investment that you can make. And even operationally, if they're finding that future focus hard to crystallize, you can talk about those things that we do in learning and development so well that keep learning, keep it agile and keep it iterative. So we can focus on things like micro learning, on the job learning, and learning in the flow of work. It doesn't have to be very heavily resourced. Think high tech for high impact. And I think the final mistake that businesses make, or common misconception they have, is that they underestimate the talent that they already have within their organization. So they look across the talent field, so to speak, and they think, well, gosh, we need to bring in all of these new skills. So let's look externally to try and buy them in. Couple of problems. That's super expensive. It takes a very long time. If you wanted to recruit somebody now, they may not be joining you until June, July time. And it's going to cost you a great deal of money. And doing that underestimates and undervalues the potential that your current workforce already have. So they are prepared, set up, ready, eager to learn and to grow. And you can provide these opportunities to them so they can grow and learn through new initiatives. They can gain these new skills themselves. You don't have to buy them in. So what I would say is focus on your existing workforce, give them not the benefit of the doubt, but give them the opportunity to show that they have the ability to grow and develop and to be the future workforce that you need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well put. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Daniel. Yeah, we've got a lot of interesting topics to cover today. Mentioned a few things there about the technical skills there as well. We're also going to be talking a little bit later about succession planning and how upskilling and reskilling will impact that as well. So we're really interested to hear more from you. Shifting gears a little bit, and funny that you mentioned the talk about technical skills gap as well. That's something that we've obviously been talking about for years. Kuba knows all too well about being an engineer himself. So yeah, thanks again for that. So I will pass it over to you, Kuba, now. Yeah, so I want to talk about challenges. So what are some of the key challenges companies face in implementing effective reskilling and upskilling programs?
So I fully agree with what Daniel said, and I believe that the biggest challenge in implementing reskilling and upskilling programs is that companies are not doing that because they prefer the candidate from outside because they've already listed all of the skills on their resume. So you just buy skills, and of course we know that it's not working like this. So yeah, the lack of these projects is the first problem that I believe is the most important. If we have the companies that they know that the internal mobility is a solution because candidate that based in the resume, and it's always shiny and great, not as good as your employees who that have some problems, etc. So I would say that the first thing is related to identifying skill gaps. So we've asked about the skill gaps, but often the skill gap existence, especially where the skill gap is a hunch or intuition of the HR people. And when we work with the customers and we ask, do you know which skills do you miss today? It's very hard to say. From my experience, there are 3 snapshots of the employee skills. We often say that skills that we have today, but often companies talk about the skills they believe they have today or they should have today. And when we map the people, we realize that there is a gap between this should be stage and as is stage. So that's the first thing, that without identifying skill gaps, it's hard to craft any reskilling or upskilling projects. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that when you already know what's the current skill gap, you need to try to forecast how this skill gap will change with the company strategy. So we know that our company has some strategy. We know how we want to build our competitive advantage, etc. And of course, our reskilling and upskilling project should be aligned with that. If I know that I want to be more data driven, I want to sell reports and insights to my customers, I need to build my competencies and skills around that. So aligning this with company strategy is the second issue. The third one is that sometimes we lack the employee engagement. So there are companies who are training people, but without applying the skills they are having. In the technical world, it was for years about the cloud and about microservices, where big financial institutions were training people around the cloud, but this employee knew that they won't be able to use cloud in this institution for the next 10 years. They will still live on this on-premise instances. So that's the problem. Addressing the challenge of engaging employees in the reskilling and upskilling initiatives. And ensuring that the participation ratio will be high enough, etc. That's very important. And there are, of course, many techniques to do that. Some time ago, we were covering the case study with Google about the participation rate and certification rate for the project. And we know that, for example, building the reskilling and upskilling initiatives based on the interests of individuals. When you craft the very flexible and personalized career path. When I'm learning something that interests me, it's like, the succession, like, or the let's say probability of finishing it successfully is huge. Like, change. It can be things like 40 times higher attendance rate for the certification paths when you teach people based on the prerequisites they already have, based on their interests, etc. So I would say these are the three main challenges: identifying the skill gaps, aligning these skill gaps or predicting how these skill gaps will change the future, and ensuring that we have a high employee engagement based on these personalized career paths.
Mm-hmm. One can't go without the other. So thanks, Gilbert. I don't know, Daniel, did you want to add anything here, or should we move along?
Only to say I completely agree with what Kuba was saying there. I think that identification of that skills gap is fundamental. It's impossible to be able to derive your next learning strategy. Do we have a culture that can accommodate this type of learning, talking about succession planning, even hiring, if you don't have a good understanding of where those skill gaps are and how it aligns to your business strategy? Because having that information to start with is crucial to be able to decide what to do next. So sometimes information is power, and in this case, data is very much power. So I completely agree.
Yeah, like Kuba said, so we call it the as is state here at Reskilling, as is to be. So thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Kuba, for that answer there. We're gonna shift gears here a little bit, talking about soft and hard skills. But I'm gonna launch a second poll. Again, to sort of preface this next question. So it's launching, and it should be appearing on your screen right now. We're talking about the balance of soft and hard skills. So the question here is, how would you describe the current balance between soft and hard skills within your organization? Again, we've got a few different answers here. I read them out because they don't pop up on the recording. So the current focus is adequate, more emphasis on soft skills needed, more emphasis on hard skills needed, a shift towards a more balanced approach, innovation in skill development is required, focusing on integrating skills with digital transformation, or other. And about a third of you have voted, so I'm going to let it run for about a minute or a bit less, just to collect as many votes as possible. Just a reminder for anyone who just joined us, we do have a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar, so if you have any questions, you can fire them into the Q&A box below. Unfortunately, if you're joining on LinkedIn, you can't do that. You've got to be in the Zoom portal to do that, but feel free to send them to us. We'll be happy to answer them by email. Okay, I will end the poll with that's right there and share the results. So how would you describe the current balance between soft and hard skills within your organization? We had a close winner, but second option, more emphasis on soft skills needed, with 27%. We also got a vote on a shift towards a more balanced approach and more emphasis on hard skills needed. So pretty balanced there between those few answers on the screen. I'll stop sharing those. We'll also be sharing these poll results later as well, so you can keep an eye out on those ones in a follow-up email from us. So gonna bring it back to you again, Kuba, if that's okay. So the question here is about soft and hard skills. So what are your views on the balance between soft and hard skills in the context of reskilling and upskilling?
It depends if we are talking about the reskilling or upskilling, to be honest, because if you're talking about changing the job role, and I'm moving from I don't know, from the technical software development to sales, then of course, soft skills will be more important for me. And if I'm moving the other direction from sales to software development, then of course I need to focus on the hard skills. Basically,
you can't talk your way into code, basically, right? You got to actually know how to code.
You can't. So both are important, but it's different. Like when we talk about the reskilling, upskilling versus the job positions, because for job positions, I would say both are important. For reskilling, upskilling, the question is where's my experience and where's my core focus for today. Basically, what I believe right now is the most important, if we can call it soft skills, is that basically, we all talk about the lifelong learning, but I would say that basically like learning agility and problem solving attitude is what's the most important right now. Yesterday, I was doing some, hard machine learning stuff, and I wasn't writing any single line of code. I was using ChatGPT to generate all of the necessary stuff. And when I was doing it 2 months ago, it was totally different approach. I needed to code because ChatGPT was not able to resolve my clustering problems. While yesterday it was pretty okay. So I would say that that's the most important stuff. That you need to have a problem solving attitude. To just resolve issues and resolve challenges that you have, and really the way how you do that, especially right now, it's changing week over week, and that's really today I was talking to my co-founder. He said, "Hey, I found a new technology to write plugins to our platform, and it's like 10 times faster than something that I was doing like 2 months ago." So yeah, this agility is one of the most important things. The question is basically what are the practical implications of that? Because how you can incorporate this soft versus hard skills into the training programs, and it's basically based on your current knowledge and current experience. And as I said, if we'll be reskilling Justin you to some role and me to the same role, our focus will be in total different places because we are in the different places today. So yeah, I would vote for the learning agility and problem solving attitudes, which are like a mix of soft and hard skills.
Yep. Thanks very much. Daniel, you want to add anything here?
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree. I think that when it comes to talking about how we upskill and reskill our people and where we should draw that line between balancing hard and soft skills, I think that the poll was really indicative of the challenges that we face as a group of talent managers or talent development people. It's where do we draw that line? And what I would say is that if you imagine that everybody in your organization has a T-shaped set of skills, so the top of the T are these broad skills, those things that are more commonplace but are really important in order for you to be able to succeed. And they can be things like communication, collaboration, innovation, creative problem solving, but they can also include those important, what we would consider technical skills that have got a lot more exposure and a lot more internal mobility options. So things like data science, being able to do good data analytics. Who knew that 10 years ago that would be a vital skill, a core component of a learning and development specialist now, but it is. And then the leg of your T, these are your deep skills. These are the things that people do day in and day out. And these are the things that people will dedicate most of their time to. And again, they will be a mixture of both hard and soft skills. So the key is to think about these skills as complementary, not competitive. If you imagine a really good front-end engineer, the one that is, top of the class, so to speak, they're going to have some fantastic technical skills. They're going to be very good at coding languages, etc. But on the flip side, in order to be able to problem solve and collaborate and cooperate, they need to have equally, if not more so, effective soft skills around the areas of communication and building positive work relationships. So if you think about what it is that requires that person to be successful, that generally will give you an idea of the sort of skills that you need to be focusing on. But as Cooper said, it is industry and role specific. It's dynamic and it does change. That sounds like I'm trying to get away without giving a firm answer there. What I would say is that it is normally a combination of both. So both should have equal priority in your organization. And that priority then changes depending on whether you are upskilling or reskilling. Your example of taking a coder to sales or salesperson to coding is a great one. You would obviously change your mix based on that. So don't allow one to subsume the other. They are equally important in an organization.
Yep. It's certainly as you mentioned, as the poll reflected earlier on. So Thanks for that, both of you. We will move forward actually, and bringing it back again to you, Kuba. So we're talking a little bit about, you talked a little bit about remaining dynamic and how things are changing, especially with technology. So looking ahead actually at the job market, the question here is, what trends do you foresee in the job market over the next 5 years, and how can companies better prepare for these changes coming up?
Okay, so basically, I would say that the first thing is that a lot of the whole landscape of the job market is changing right now due to AI, due to automation, enhanced communication, like data analysis skills, agility, etc. So the case is that it happens to all of the companies. It's not like what happened to the cloud, for example, when some companies were like already present in the cloud for many years, I don't know, 7 years, and then let's say next tier of the company started to enter the cloud, so they were able to buy the skills on the market by hiring external people. The case is that right now all companies are basically looking for people who can use automation, AI, data analysis on a daily basis. So it doesn't mean that we are looking for AI specialists. We are looking for HR specialists who are fluent in AI. We are looking for accountants who are fluent in automation, etc. So the problem is that there are no such people on the market. So basically, I would say that this internal mobility that Daniel mentioned is one of the most important trends in the job market, that companies need to focus on the internal workforce, because the external workforce does not exist in the quantity that allows us to cover all of the needs. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the jobs are changing right now. So when we talk about the skill-based organizations, it's because we are more focused on tasks than on the job roles. So far, we have the job roles when the job role was specified by some mission, vision, etc. And right now we are talking about the tasks, and these tasks are different today than they will be in 6 months or something like this. So that's why companies are focusing on the skill sets rather than job roles. And that's also tricky because right now when you're looking for the job, you are mostly focusing on the job position name. So you are going to some job advertisement site, and you look for the marketing specialists, marketing managers, marketing directors. And if we talk about the skill-based organization, there will be just an employee with particular skills. So you will need to focus on the skills and then look for the jobs that matches your skill set. With this approach, it's the same you can do internally. When you map the skills of your employees, you can move them around positions, or even have the skill-based organization when there are no job positions, or they are, but they are not important for the tasks assignment, but you assign the tasks based on the skills. So it's possible that you will assign the task of creating some marketing report to the sales guy, because he's expert in data visualization, data storytelling, and that's what you need. And you don't care about the job role, job position, title, whatever. You care about the skill set. So these are the two things that I would say are the trends that I believe we'll see on the job market.
Sure. Thanks. Not sure, Daniel, do you want to add anything here, or we'll move forward?
No, just to say completely agree, but yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, cool. All right, so shifting gears again a little bit here, we're going to talk a little bit here about organizational culture. So I'll point this direction towards you, Daniel. So simply, what role does organizational culture play in the success of upskilling and reskilling initiatives?
Yeah, I think it plays arguably the most important role in being able to have successful upskilling and reskilling initiatives. And so what do we mean when we say organizational cultures that give you that effective, that successful reskilling and upskilling? Well, I think the first thing is you need to ask yourself, how does our organization deal with mistakes or failure? If they see them as a challenge and a threat, something that should be suppressed or hidden, that's not an environment that is conducive to people being able to fail in safety. Humans, we learn by the mistakes that we make, by trying something, stretching ourselves beyond our current set of knowledge, skills, and behaviors and trying something new. And so if you have an organizational culture that allows people to fail safely, that treats mistakes as opportunities for learning and growth, and focuses on collaboration, you give people the confidence to try. And sometimes that can be all it takes. One of the most fundamental things I believe is that nobody sets out to do a bad job. We very rarely have malicious agents in our business that are trying to do a bad job. People want to get on and do well, and so you need to provide the opportunities, the space, the time, the resources for them to do that. And let's talk about the how then. So I'm not just giving you the nice fluffy theory stuff. You need to start with your leaders. They have to have buy-in for your upskilling and reskilling program. Their commitment to reskilling and upskilling not only gets you the resources that you need to do it, the tools, the technology, the people, but it also sets the tone for the organization. If your CEO, your CFO, your COO are committed to growth and development, they are obsessed with reskilling and upskilling, they talk about it, and they make it a business initiative, the business will respond accordingly. Where you have that disconnect between leadership values and what leadership prioritizes, and your very hard-working learning and development team, your tools, whatever it might be, that disconnect prevents success. The next thing I would say as a practical tip is, as organizations, you tend to find that reward and recognition can be quite siloed. For example, your sales team, I hope, will be fantastic at rewarding and recognizing good performance when things are going well. What you need to do in order to develop that organizational culture is just shift slightly and say that the things that we want to reward and recognize are where people have gone and gained a new skill, they have upskilled, they've taken an internal mobility opportunity and are succeeding, they've gained a new qualification, or even they've made a mistake but learned from it. It's important that when we're talking about the things that we value, the things that we want to highlight and showcase to the rest of our organization, we're not just talking about business initiatives or results. We're also talking sometimes about the process. How did we get there? Did we invest in new skills? Did we invest in taking John, who worked in sales and as Kuba said, was excellent at data visualization and data storytelling, and moved him across into a role where he was doing more of that for the business, perhaps, in performance or in looking at, SaaS metrics, for example. So once we get better and more comfortable as an organization about talking about these opportunities to grow and try and fail safely, we create the conditions in which you can prioritize a reskilling and upskilling strategy. They can't work one without the other. And if you try, you'll very quickly find yourself running into issues, which most people then try and diagnose by feedback and then try and fix by making learning mandatory, telling people that they need to attend courses, focusing on engagement instead of outcome. So what I would say is, get in first with your leaders. They're the best source of information about your business. Stay aligned to the business, but most importantly, try to foster that culture where you allow for learning, creativity, and innovation.
Yeah, very interesting. And of course, like the knockdown effect of creating this culture as well is financial as well. When you think about it, if you're creating this culture of growth and learning, how that affects like being able to, as you mentioned at the top, finding people rather than having to externally hire, and the costs that go into that, the time that goes into that. If you can breed this culture, you're going to sort of as well save money as well, which I think is most critical here as
Absolutely.
well.
You've hit the nail on the head. I'm a big fan of statistics, so apologies if I bore you with them. But Deloitte have done some really interesting research that says that places, organizations where you have these strong organizational cultures, these strong learning cultures, are 92% more likely to develop novel products or processes. So even if you are thinking about it purely from a business perspective, being able to turn around to your business and say, look, we are almost 100%, because hey, it's always fun to exaggerate slightly. We are almost 100% more likely to develop new products, new processes, better ways of working if we adopt this mentality and we stick to this culture. So there is a legitimate business advantage to doing it.
For sure. Yep. Yeah. Thanks very much for that answer there, Daniel. Kuba, did you want to add anything, or should we move forward?
No, I can just add that I believe the similar reports states that you are over 60% more like it's more probable that you will achieve results. So like, even that you will do something. And yeah, from that perspective, I believe that this webinar is a little bit boring because we agree on everything for you, Daniel. So like, sorry, nothing to add, fully agree.
Yeah. We need to get someone from completely different perspective next time, just to disagree with everything to make it interesting. But yeah, thank you both for that. I will bring it back to you, Daniel, and talk a little bit here about continuous learning. So you mentioned the importance of the organizational culture and how that's impacting things. But what are some effective ways to foster this culture of continuous learning and development within an organization?
Absolutely. It's really important that the two go hand in hand, that culture and that need for continuous learning. Again, to steal a march from Kuba here, he mentioned a really important fundamental skill that we all need to have, and it's that ability to learn and to be agile with our learning as well. So if we want to get really practical about it, if you focus on those two skills and you make sure that in everyone's T-shaped skills diagram, that ability to learn and be agile in learning is in there, you're going to start fostering that continuous learning anyway, because you've given people that ability. But I would say that, again, trying to keep this really practical for everybody that's joined us, one of the most simple ways for you to be able to foster continuous learning and to promote it is to incentivize the behavior that you want. So I'll give you an example. Here at Workable, we have a performance scorecard like everybody else, I imagine. And on our scorecard, we've got two core areas. The first bit is your job. Those are the measurable outcomes, the goals, the objectives, the targets that you need to achieve in order to be successful at what you do. The second part of our scorecard is around the competencies required to be successful. So what are those knowledge, skills, or behaviors that you need in order to succeed? So, just in your scorecard would look at things like communication and marketing content and those sorts of things. Now, our scorecards are linked to our potential promotion prospects. They're linked to our potential pay rises, to our potential bonus payments. So we incentivize people to go out and think about their growth and development, think about the knowledge and skills that they need to succeed, by embedding it into our performance management tool. And it's not a light activity. We don't just say, well, 90% of your performance score is related to your job output, and 5-10% is this nice competencies bit. No, over a third of your score is made up of your competencies. That can have a big impact on the decisions that we make as a company next year about your promotion, pay, or bonus. The next thing I would say is it's all very well and good having all of your middle managers down working on this continuous learning, everybody in being involved in training, fostering that natural curiosity, getting people involved. Unless your leadership aren't exemplifying that commitment to their own development, it won't work. Your leaders need to set a powerful precedent to their employees. They need to be role models in this space. So if you want to create that culture of continuous learning, get your most senior leaders involved. And when they do get involved, make that visible, put a great big police light on it and take it around the entire office, because it's really important for people to see their leaders participating. You think about people that are ambitious in your organization, everybody has looked at somebody in the C-suite or the senior leadership team and said, in 10 years, I'd love to be there. And so they're going to model those behaviors. And so if that senior leader is committed to their growth and their development, they're committed to, growing their competencies, you're going to find that other people in the organization are going to be motivated. My final tip, leverage technology. As I said before, high tech equals high touch. If you start utilizing, for example, artificial intelligence and learning analytics, you can provide tailored learning solutions. You can track progress in real time. You can identify skills gap dynamically as they happen. Once you've done that, you've got the opportunity to provide personalized learning paths. And the reason that personalized learning paths, I know it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but the reason it's so important is because people want to feel in control of their learning. If you're interested in the theory, it's called self-determination theory, but essentially it says that if people feel that they are autonomous, they are competent, and they have the ability to collaborate with people, then they are more likely to succeed, to stay, and to be happy. So a continuous learning culture requires those key elements. Its benefits are enormous. You'll have a committed, engaged workforce that are more likely to stay with you. They're more likely to grow their skills. They're more likely to refer your company to their friends, colleagues, whatever it might be. So I would say that fostering a continuous learning culture, vital. We need to get on top of the demographic that are coming through our organization. And those demographics are interested in upskilling and reskilling almost as much as they are interested in their pay and benefits. So let's start meeting their needs a bit more. So that's what I would say. Fostering a continuous learning culture, vital for success.
Yeah, interesting point you made there at the end as well about the changing age of the workforce as well. I think we mentioned it in a previous webinar, the last one we did about Gen Z. I can't remember the exact statistic, but it was 70% or something like that in the next 5 years is going to be made up of Gen Z employees, basically. So you've got to shift gears to what they want, basically. Millennials obviously coming into the fold as well. So yeah, very interesting. Thanks, Daniel. Daniel, sorry. Cool. What's your perspective on this one? Yeah.
So basically, when I'm asked about this like learning culture and what we can achieve, I always think about two different perspectives. First is like very broad perspective about learning new skills, but learning them not on the expert level, but let's say on the useful level. And that's something where you don't need people to like really desperately love to learn this particular skill, because it's enough to show them that this skill is useful, or this skill will make their work better, easier, more fun, etc. And that's where sharing some tips or fun facts is really doing a very good job. So, for example, like ChatGPT or AI, I've shared today with people in our office that for me, the biggest game changer in any interaction in AI is when you add one sentence to the prompt, and this one sentence is, feel free to ask me any questions until you have enough information to complete the task. And that's something that improves the quality of the results provided by AI by the factor of 10. Seriously, you will never think about all of the important context information. And as long as you allow AI to ask you additional questions, it's really like asking a question. You say, wow, yes, it's very important. I've never thought about that. So that's something that is changing. And of course, the result of that is that when I return from the kitchen to my room, I see that everyone literally is looking for the trainings and AI prompting, playing with ChatGPT, etc. So that's something that really, by sharing some fun facts, you can really trigger the learning of people. And of course, the more high tech you are using, as Daniel said, the better effects you will have, because that's something that allows you to touch with people and also scale this learning path. So that's the first thing related to, let's say, broad knowledge. If we talk about the learning culture, but on the very, very high level, when I want to, or low level, when I want to have an experts in the particular areas, let's say that I want to have an AI expert in my company, and I want to build this culture of really specializing in some areas, it's very important that you are not able to move over the, let's say, mid competency level without teaching others. And that's something that is very important. If you really want to be an expert in a particular skill, technology, etc., you need to start teaching people. You will get questions on the trainings that you will never ever think about, etc. And also, like, by preparing the materials and explaining this concept to people, you really need to understand that, because when you start explaining the topic, you really ask yourself questions. Okay, but why it's like linked in that way? Why? What's the cause for that? What's the reason for building it in that way, etc.? So these are the two hints that I would say are really like helping with that. Because if I can share my knowledge inside the company, I'm helping others in this company to learn this topic, and I'm helping myself to do that. And if the company is building this mentorship, internal mentorships projects, they're basically boosting this continuous learning from two ends. One, they are ensuring that the, let's say, quantity of the skill in the company is growing, but also the quality of the company is growing, because you are boosting these people who are already pretty proficient in these skills, so like, you know, to move to the level that is not like, you know, not common, right? Because they really need to understand. They need to answer questions, explain topics, and that's something what is extremely important from my perspective. So yeah, I would say that this social learning, where we are all learning this skill, and you know, it's more fun to learn one skill when you are learning with your friends. You can share the hints and you say, hey, I've watched the same video, etc. Some time ago, I was taking some data analytics trainings, and a few other people from our company was doing that. And like, you know, sharing the funny thing was that we are focusing on totally different things on these videos. And I said, that was cool. Oh, it was in this video? Oh, sorry, I missed that. So I need to watch it one more time. So the social learning and improving this internal mentorship projects, it's what I believe, like employee-led training sessions, etc. This recognition and rewarding these learning achievements, even by like shining that I'm an expert in this area at our company. That's what was a game changer for me.
Awesome. Okay, thanks very much, both of you there. We are going to move along here, and I can see that there's a question here in the Q&A already, so we will get to that towards the end, and feel free to fire some more in there, guys. That's also sort of comment about the chat, which has been enabled as well. So I'm going to launch our third and final poll for today, which is talking about succession planning. So the question here is, which best describes how your organization integrates reskilling and upskilling strategies into its succession planning processes? There's some varied answers here about, we have a structured program for high-value employees. We focus on reskilling and upskilling current leaders to adapt to evolving roles. Our succession planning primarily focused on external recruitment. We offer reskilling and upskilling opportunities broadly. We're in the early stages of integrating reskilling and upskilling into succession planning. Or reskilling and upskilling is not used within our current succession planning strategy. There's also other here if you're unsure exactly how it's working within your organization, which is also fun. So I can see again about a third of you voting. So if you're just listening in, yeah, jump back over to Zoom. You can pop a vote in here. Thank you. A few more people coming through. So I appreciate that. And I will end the poll and share the results, which are rather interesting. So the top vote getter with 33% was we're in the early stages of integrating reskilling into our succession planning strategy. We also got 28% of votes. I believe that was the second most. Yeah, 28% of votes, which was it's not used at all within our current succession planning strategy. So it's very interesting, and hopefully we can provide some tips and insight here about how to do that. So I'm going to bring this straight over to you, Daniel, directly about the question there. So how can organizations effectively incorporate reskilling and upskilling into the succession planning strategy?
It's really important question. I'm going to start with a bit of a stat for you. So McKinsey did a report that said that 70% of leaders all agree that building leadership talent is crucial for their organization's growth and success in the future. They were then asked a follow-up question, do you believe that your talent pipeline is ready to meet those future challenges? Only 5% said yes. So there is a big gap between the acknowledgement of the challenge and then actually being able to do something about it. And that's not uncommon. In truth, only around 1/3 of organizations actually have robust succession planning in place. So what is it that we can do to ensure that A, we have that robust succession planning, and B, it incorporates good upskilling and reskilling opportunities? I think that the first thing that we should always do when we're looking at our succession plan in terms of reskilling and upskilling is we need to ensure that we're aligned to the business strategy. So that will help you decide whether you've got new and emerging skills that you need to focus on. For example, is the business launching a new product? Are we trying to tap into a new market? Are we perhaps changing our offering in some way that will necessitate the need for new skills? And if so, we need to get those injected into our talent pools so that they become part of our pipeline. And on the other hand, are we perhaps seeing some of the skills that we have in our organization becoming a bit more obsolete? And so should we be deprioritizing those for our talent pools so that they're almost self-sorted out of our pipeline? So that's the first part that I would say. You need to make sure that your talent pools and your talent pipeline are aligned to business needs. The next thing I would say is, once you've got an idea that the succession plan that you have in place is aligned, you need to do that competency gap analysis. We talked about, the skills gap analysis at the beginning. You've got an idea of the skills that you need in the future. You've got an idea of the skills that are going to be a bit more obsolete. We can drop them off by the wayside. So let's do that check. Let's find out who in our organization has those skills and who doesn't. Those that have, should they be in our pipeline? Should they be in our talent pool? Once you've got an idea of, the as-is state, which I really like, by the way, I'm going to steal that. You've got a much better opportunity to essentially to herd your high potential employees into those really important positions. And what I would say is, don't just think about these talent pools and talent pipelines as only leading to one direction, which is your senior leadership team. You should also look at your business for those roles that are crucial that may not necessarily be in leadership. Are you very dependent on your data science team, which at the moment is formed of 2 people in the basement? Does that need to grow in order for your organization to derive better opportunities from data? Or do you have a growth area where you've launched a new product and so you need to develop a marketing team or a sales team based around those new skills? So that's what I would say. And the final thing is, once you've got those high potential people identified and you're sifting them into their talent pools, start thinking about what a personalized learning pathway will look like. What is it that you as an organization can do to either upskill or reskill them so that they have that, the big badge of skills that you need in order to succeed? And will the skills that you are pushing them on, will it push them through that talent pipeline as you want, or are you just developing a pool of people? And what I would say is that, you want to do the former. You want to make sure that the skills enable your people to move through your pipeline so that you are getting them in, you're keeping them, you're growing them, you're developing them, and you're moving them into those roles in the future where they can have the most impact for your business. So to cut a very long answer very short, make sure you're aligned strategically, do that competency gap analysis, make sure that your pipelines point to, yes, senior leadership roles, but also high impact roles in your organization. And then finally, let's start talking about personalizing their development, taking the skills that they need and dropping off the ones that they don't.
Very well put. Thanks, Daniel, very much for that answer there. we might even still that step by step. It's 4 steps. Nice way to break it down. So thanks for that. We are actually approaching our final question here for today's session, and there is just a final reminder about the Q&A. We will get to that question there, but if you have any more questions for our panelists, you can fire them in there. If you don't feel like asking them live, you can also send us an email. We'll be happy to answer them by email. But I'll point this final question towards you, Kabul. We're talking looking ahead to the future. We talked a little bit. There was a couple of mentions about AI and machine learning and these sorts of things. So this question is centered around that, actually. So looking ahead, how do you envision the integration of AI and machine learning in the fields of reskilling and upskilling, and even something like recruitment as well?
I would say it's an extremely hard question, and why? A couple of days ago, I had a conversation with our head of HR regarding this particular topic, and the problem that we are facing here is much more deeper than anyone can expect, because the case is that machine learning and AI, it works better. Like, the more data you put into these algorithms, the better they work. So it's not a matter of technology, it's more like matter of ethics, or like morality even, about what you want to do. Because if we are talking about HR decisions or reskilling decisions, etc., the more we know about our employees, the better we can support this process. But the question is, where's the boundary? Where's the limit that you don't want to cross? Like, for example, in terms of the interests, is it okay to know what our employees are learning on their personal profiles on Coursera or Udemy? That will be helpful, but we can ask anyone for the consent, right? And based on that, we can do something. Is it important to track all of the certificates they have? Maybe we should track their social media posts to just gather their their interests, because then we can suggest them something that relates to their interests, right? And if we are able to track their phone calls and what they're talking in the kitchen, then we can propose even better career paths. But that's scary, right? And that's some crazy situation from not very funny movie. So that's the case. The question is, how much do you want your company to know about you to support this stuff? Even in the advertisement business, there is I often feel very uncomfortable when I'm talking about going to holiday, and 5 minutes later I'm getting on Facebook the ads for the great holiday places, and I say, hey, I'm not feeling comfortable with that. So that's the problem. And the question about how much we can integrate AI and machine learning to our HR related stuff, because reskilling, upskilling is also HR related, is the question about how much we want our companies to know about us. And I believe that there is no question. I also believe that people from Gen Z, they can have totally different opinion on that than us, where we are in our 40-year-old or something like this. So I believe that there is no answer about that to this question, mostly due towards this where are the limits from the ethical perspective about how much we can feed these models to give us the answers. Because there were huge discussion years ago if we can even manually verify the social media of our candidates to check if we want to hire someone or not. And there are huge, sorry for the word, shitstorms where someone was rejected due to, I don't know, tattoos or something like this. And right now, of course, we talk more about the diversity. So I believe that no one is checking if our potential candidates are having tattoos or not, because that was crazy. But there are companies who are doing that. A lot of airlines are still doing that. They don't allow flight attendants to have tattoos or something like this in the visible parts of the body. So I would say the question of that, how much do we want to feed into these data models? Of course, the better results we'll have, but probably I have great ads, personalized ads on over the internet, but I'm not happy with getting these personalized ads. It's scary for me. So I don't want to scare our employees, but feeding too much information into the AI algorithms. So yeah, for now, I would rely on opt-in. So everything that you add, you link manually, then we can use that. And it's not a lot today, because also, like, the exchange mechanism between these different learning systems, etc., these are not helping in achieving that, right? So yeah, that's how I answer that.
Thank you. Daniel, do you want to add anything here?
Yep, just a very quick 30 seconds just to say that Kuba's absolutely right. The best machine learning and AI models require an enormous amount of data to go into them, and there are concerns about ethics. But he also mentioned an important point earlier, which is that we should be doing our recruiting activities around skills, not just job titles. And one thing I will say is that Workable's applicant tracking software, we've built that AI system on over 3 million job postings and millions of anonymized profiles as well. These are public domain opportunities, public domain information, I should say. So you can use technology like Workable to hire for potential. You can look at skills that you want to bring into the business, and you can search a platform like ours for them. You can use those Workable assessments to make sure that somebody hasn't exaggerated a bit too much on their CV, and confirm that the skills they say are the skills that they have. So we've got assessments for that. We're leveraging and harnessing AI as much as we can at Workable. So if you want to come and have a conversation about how a platform like ours could help, please do. I know that Kathleen, my brilliant colleague, is in the comments, so feel free to reach out. But yeah, I would say that we're a company that is leveraging the potential of AI already. And so if you want to partner with it, come and have a chat.
Yep, awesome. I've got one question here. I might stay with you, Daniel, if you wanted to answer this one here, which is from Yara. So the question popped up earlier in the conversation. So how do you measure an organizational learning culture? So maybe you can give us some tips from what you're doing over there at Workable.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And so I would say that one of the ways that you could do it, again, if I bring us back to our scorecard contains those competencies. If you have a good organizational culture that is focused on this, you will see that you're tracking against time, those competencies will increase, the scores against them will get better. You have performance related metrics and data in place to enable you to see performance as a standard. The next thing I would say is measuring culture is tough, but if you have got a community or collaboration platform, is that actively engaged with? Are lots of people contributing? Are lots of people responding to Kuba's brilliant one about contextual questions for ChatGPT? You can measure engagement through these collaboration and communication tools. Another thing you can do as well is, if you've got a shared knowledge base, is it just one person pushing content, or are lots of people building content? Are you entirely relying on your learning and development and perhaps your marketing team to produce content? Or are you seeing a wide range of people providing their knowledge, offering mentoring and coaching opportunities? So I would say that you've got a measure of some hard things that you can take a look at, performance scores. If you've got a brilliant AI tool, you can look at things like that. Or you can take a look at the more organizational traits. Are people involved? Are they engaged? Are they contributing? And are they sharing their knowledge without having to be poked in the back to do so? Those are really effective ways in the first instance of measuring that organizational culture. If you want to dive a bit deeper, I'm happy to carry on the conversation with you. I could carry on for hours about it, but I know that we're slightly over time, so I better limit the answer to try those things first.
I appreciate it very much, Daniel, and Kuba. Thank you very much for your insights throughout today's session. I hope it was helpful for everyone here today. As you mentioned, Daniel, there was a link there provided by Kathleen to learn some more information about Workable. We're also going to be providing a link for Devskiller, which will be in that email I mentioned at the top tomorrow, which will include a link to the recording on YouTube and also some links to both Workable and Devskiller if you'd like to learn a little bit more about our tools. So thank you very much again for everyone for joining. Daniel, once again, and Kuba, thank you for your insights, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
nice day. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
See you later,
everyone.
guys.
Bye.